this is gonna work. So, I wanted to bring you down to one of my favorite spots while I do some reading and some reflecting and talk about one of the most important resources that we have, which is time. Warren here, by the way. And if you guys have questions or comments, I promise I will get to them when I get home. But for right now, I just want you and I to enjoy I actually made a pretty big error, but I'm just going to go barefoot in an effort to trying to getting out of the house. House slippers. I think they started getting wet, but that just makes it easier to do this. That's warm too. But yeah, time. In the military, I worked for a very smart guy who often said that there are two things you won't get more of in the drop down menu of operations, and that is more people and more time. And for the Army, he's accurate on both. But I mean, we can apply that to civilian life too. Maybe not um, a restriction on more people just based on the nature of what civilians do. But I'm sure it's been said, boy, I wish I had more time. And we say that in our private lives too, not just at work. But yeah, we never have enough of it. And then the interesting thing is that what we do have of it, we tend to waste doing a lot of things that aren't necessary, but we prioritize them as such. It's a C-17. Whoa, did you guys see that? A jumper. But yeah, we endless scroll. We catastrophize in our minds about the things we can't control. And the Stoics would bop us over the head for doing that because they've taught us that in the dichotomy of control, we are only in control of that which we have put in motion. And that sounds so easy to say, but we all know how hard that is to do. We worry about everything. We hope. And that's another thing that they would beat us up about is hope, because hope is not a course of action, but instead of planning and using time adequately, we hope. And there's nothing wrong with hope when it is all you have. And I look back on time and I don't regret any of my military years, the 20 I did in uniform. But I was thinking about it, and 4 years of the 20 were deployed. So that's 4 years of absence. And it might not seem like a lot, but it is. And then, of course, the readiness training when in garrison. It's a lot of time. My point is, there's a lot of time that we all wish we could get a little bit of it back. Earlier, I was down here and the tide was further out. I could actually, another 5 or 6 feet. But how we use our time, I think, really is important. And I'm blessed and fortunate now to have some that I can spend doing more of what I want to do. Things like this, getting away and getting by the ocean. And it doesn't have to be the ocean, it's just time spent in solitude is time well spent. Community is important, and being communal is important, but time alone is, I think, equally as, and in some cases, probably more so important. But if you don't have an ocean, you can do some forest bathing. And if you don't have a forest and you live in the city and the city has a city park or parks, or just anywhere around where you can truly just get some time. And people say it's superficial and that, you know, oh, time and meditation. But really, getting away and getting some time isn't selfish or superficial. It's actually responsible. But yeah, if you live in an arid region, there's beauty in an arid region. And it doesn't have to be outside either. It can be just genuine solitude. I thought that was a crab that was messing with my foot, but it's just the seaweed. Speaking of, speaking of solitude and time, this is what I'm currently reading. Hopefully, the orientation is right. The Gift of Not Belonging by Dr. Rami Kaminsky. How outsiders thrive in a world of joiners. And I found an interesting, I discovered an interesting word. Imagine that reading the ortrovert. Ortrovert. So we have introverts and extroverts, and there's the ortroverts. And I found out that I'm actually an ortrovert. It's the middle ground of both of those, where I do like community, but I lean more so to I'd rather be alone. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's really an interesting read. But the time you spend with yourself matters too, because there goes the jumper again. It's, um, it's healing. The neurons and our anxiety levels get to take a break because we all know that our limbic system is always in overdrive. It's where our amygdala lives, and we know that it's always in danger, 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 danger mode until the prefrontal cortex says, hey man, like we say in the army, take a knee, face out, drink some water, and pull security. It will be all right till we ascertain what this thing really is. But yeah, so, and we need that. We need that, but it can get in the way, and we need to do this to give it a break, heal. Even Marcus Aurelius did some of his best writings and his meditations during military operations. Imagine that. And the point I'm trying to make there is that for those cynics who would say, when do I have the time? The point is, if you believe that, I think if you believe that your happiness is the true currency of your life, then you'll carve it out. You'll carve out some time. I mean, if a philosopher stoic could do it, right? There's a lot of dead fish carcass along the walk down there, so the flies are pretty busy. But you know what? I appreciate them too, as annoying as they are. I appreciate them too. Hi. But time, wow. But yeah, little guys telling the big one that I just waved at a little piece of its mind about being jealous, not being able to walk like the other one is. My pup does that too. Our golden retriever, Aria. Uh, we bring her here, but bringing her for a live would not have worked. She would have been all over the place, in the water, running around. But I appreciate and realize that I'm blessed with having the time to do things like this and do it more often than I used to. And the thing with time is that we shouldn't spend a lot of it um, reminiscing about lost time, because that does us no good, right? I often say our past is a place of reflection, not a place of residence. And spending too much time going backwards hinders our forward progress, I think. So there's so much about time. It's such a unique topic, which I think it's why it's one of our um, most precious resources. But you guys are probably wondering, if you haven't read my channel description, um, that I use a lot of military examples, um, because I am retired military. But I'm going to tell you, um, it's not a story, really. It's just a term we use for people who waste and abuse their time thinking others are thinking that they're being productive. And in the army, we call those and no offense with language, busy bastards. And I'm sure you guys have, for my non military viewers, I'm sure in the civilian world you have busy bastards. And who are busy bastards? Those people waste their time and everybody else's because they're usually, here it comes, in supervisory roles. And so they're trying to impress their superior by thinking that they need to create work, busy work, or what looks like busy work. And there are a lot of those around. I won't, I can't prove that there are a lot in the Army. I'll go out on a limb and say we have our fair share. I worked for some and with some. But you know, the kind you would see uh, if you're down in the quad, we call our barracks is if you're down in the quad where you have, you know, four sets of barracks around, and you look up, usually their floors second or higher, and you see that one light and that one head, and it's not the boss, as in the big boss. Often that's a sign, not always, but often that's a sign of a busy bastard. Because if, and I'm using the military example, if I can see that person, that means I'm there and I'm a subordinate. And if I'm there, then it's expected that my subordinates are there. And you see the trickle down effect. And then you have to have leaders like myself that would push the boundaries and say, hey, I'll ask for forgiveness, not permission, and send our soldiers home. Because often you wouldn't get any guidance from these busy bastards, but they expected you to be mind readers and um, assume that if they were there, that meant you had to be there. And because of the nature of the business, it happens. It happens. But busy bastards. Um, but I'm still reading Colin Powell's new book, They Worked for Me. And he gave an example of a busy bastard that he worked for or worked with. I think, I can't remember. But and one of several reasons I brought up Colin Powell, other than being a big fan, is that at the echelons that they worked, just imagine how many people that affected and how much wasted time that is. I'm not that good at, I'm not, I used to be good at math in high school. I don't know what happened, but I'm not very good at math on the fly anymore. But I'm sure that's a lot of wasted time because we're talking about for as long as that person is there. And usually for that senior rank, we're looking at a couple years. That's a lot of missed baseball games, softball games, soccer games, helping with the homework, helping to tuck them in because by the time you get home, they're already in bed. Um, Having what I call the flyby conversation with your spouse. Hey, honey, how was your day? Good night. Because of busy bastards. Know any busy bastards? I bet you do. I bet you do. I bet you probably, I hope not. I don't want to bet. I hope you don't work for a busy bastard. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say if you are a busy bastard, stop. Your boss sees, they know, because they have given you your walking papers for the day or for the week or for the month or however you do business, right? And they're seeing the results, so they know things are getting done. So they are sitting at their desk or maybe on the golf course wondering, what is Joe still doing at the office? And yes, they should say something. And that's the point that Colin Powell was trying to make, was that leaders need to grow some you know what and say something like, hey, buddy, turn off the light, wrap it up. Was it Alan Watts that said that? He was talking about, I think, psychedelic mushrooms. Once you get the message, hang up the phone, right? Turn off the light, man. Go home. Go home to your families. Go home to that game. And if it's not a game of a team game with the rest of the kids at school, make it a team night on the sofa. We forget that team a lot. And I'm not trying to preach, I'm just coming from a place of lived experience. Busy bastards destroy families. They can, because there's so many nuances to that. Have to get the next promotion because the kids are getting more expensive. College is getting more expensive. I have to be seen as the go getter. But I'm super ambitious, Warren. That's just how I'm wired. At what cost? And again, I'm talking about busy bastards creating busy work to please, I don't know whom. But here's another thing that it signals, that there might be something deeper going on at home. Why it is you don't want to go home when you can. But let's stick to busy bastards. Don't waste other people's time because you can, because you're in a role where people are subordinate to you. You can, and in some respects, are destroying their lives and their families. Give them a chance to reset so they can choose to have moments like this, should they want to, alone or with their families, instead of sitting, being sucked in by the void that is the blue light. Allergies. But I think I'll leave it there with my banter and just let you stay as long as you want. I think I'm going to stay for another 15 minutes, but for that, I'm going to take 10 of that and just read and be quiet, and you can stick around if you want. Let me see if I can still be in the frame and lean back. I think so. So enjoy. I'll come on back to say bye, but there we go. All right. Along with my house slippers, I forgot my spectacles. Ay, ay, ay. bicycle gang. Kids in my neighborhood call them the bicycle gang. They're good kids, but I think I've seen up to 8 of them. They just ride around in circles. The things we used to do as kids, spending valuable time. You're interesting. Here's a nugget about, I'm sorry, interrupting your time. Imagine that. But I think you'd want to hear this. He says, because Otroverts are both curious and friendly, they can strike up deep conversations with people during relatively brief encounters. In fact, this is the only way they know how to communicate. That is the first part of the book that I disagree with in terms of thinking I'm an introvert, because I can do that, but I often don't do that. So I don't know. I usually let someone go first, and then I can hold my own. But I'm not a go firster, unless it just so happens. I don't know if I've ever been a, like, let's say in an airport setting or restaurant line or movie line or ticket line or something. I don't think so. I don't think I've ever been a go firster. Anyway, interesting nugget. Back to Solace. I mentioned the nuances that comes with time, and I was just reflecting on one a combat example where patience a tie-in, I think. Um, Patience and training in this respect, but more so patience. We were being bird dogged by a car one night, a Chevy Impala, believe it or not, in Iraq. And at the time, we had established with the Iraqi government the following distance and the standoff distance, both daytime and at night. And this was a night push. And for some reason, this car was just not adhering to all of the warning signs, lasers, um, waving flags, um, yelling, and the guys are calling me, and I mean it's bearing down pretty fast on us, and the rear gun truck is calling, and Charger 3-2, um, this Viper, I think Viper 3 was their call sign at the time, and we just kept going through the calls, and I'm basically giving the car, believe it or not, time to not have to hopefully um, injure or hurt anyone. That wasn't the case. It kept coming, and finally I told the gunner to fire a warning shot, and it was from a 50 caliber uh, weapon, and so I don't know if it ricocheted or not, but it entered the fuel tank. It entered the fuel tank of the Impala, and I've never seen a Chevy Impala. Not that I've ever seen a Chevy Impala go up in flames, but this probably was the fastest burning Chevy Impala that I've ever seen. The the thing though is, the long story short is that everybody walked away, and it was his wife, two kids, one still being breastfed. They were in a hurry to go on vacation, he said, to Mosul. Anyway, time. It's a dangerous game, because what if they were nefarious, and were acting in a nefarious manner? I could have bought them some time to injure or hurt my guys. But like I said, training and patience and lived experiences is what I think. And there are several incidents like that. There was another one where a kid, and I wrote about these in my first book, Principles of Decision Making in People. But there was another one where a kid was running in the median, again in Iraq. All four of my deployments were Iraq, running in the median, and the guys just kept calling, he's paying out wire, he's paying out wire. And this again was the times when there were all kinds of crude IEDs, before the sophisticated stuff. And sadly, they would use kids too. But again, patience and experience said, Let's see how this develops." So by the time my truck got to the kid, and I put my gunner up and asked him what he saw, we were a little closer too. So smaller vehicle. So we got a little closer than the other trucks that were calling in what they were seeing. It was a cassette tape, busted cassette tape, and he was just running, and it was just flaying out as he was running. But it did look like wire. Time is our most precious resource, and so many nuances with it. But when we embrace it and cajole it and harness it, because we realize how valuable it is, it can work more so to our benefit than to our detriment. But I want to leave you with that. It's a precious commodity, and I'm glad you stopped by to spend some of it with me. But until our next conversation, our next discussion, which is weekly. Um, so I think next Wednesday, um, yeah, Wednesday or Tuesday. Uh, but until then, you be good out there. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again soon. You can stay as long as you want. I'm just gonna get out of your shot. All right. We'll see you. enjoyed that. I gotta head home to the pup. It's almost done for her late afternoon walk. Yeah, she's that spoiled. So thanks for stopping around again, and be good out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk again soon. All right?